Hello guys and welcome to Sonic Labs. Today we'll be going through some of the best free distortion slash saturation plugins. So let us begin. So at first we have Burier by Kit Plugins, and this is a combo of a saturation plugin and a filtering plugin. So you have a low cut and a high cut in this, and then you have the main saturation knob which will determine the amount of saturation you want on your sounds. The tone that you get out of this plugin is very much subjective because it's really easy for you to crank it up to high levels and then completely crushing the sound. So you need to be careful while using this. Now there is a very convenient option here called link. So this links the drive knob, the bury knob with the output knob. So as you increase the drive, the output gain decreases automatically. So yeah, that's pretty convenient. But if you want, you can unlink them and do it manually. Then there is a low cut and a high cut, and these two filters have a curve of 12 dB per octave each. So that's the amount of that's the kind of filter you get out of these two. And then at the end we have a mix knob, so we can blend the saturated sound with the original. So let's just listen to its effect. So here we have a drum loop and a guitar loop going on. So we'll just increase the drive slowly. And as you can see, just around like 2 or 3, a sound of the drums, it just starts getting crushed. So while using this plugin on drums, we need to be careful. But when we are using it on some sort of instrument like this guitar loop, it can really bring out some good amount of harmonics inside the sound, and you can crank it up to like 8 or 7 or something, depends on your choice. So yeah, and while using it on something like when you're using it on multiple tracks at a time, what you can do is you can just crank it up a bit, and when you think it's starting to get distorted, you can just adjust the mix. And you're good to go. So next we have Fuzz Plus 3 by Audio Damage, and this is not like your regular distortion saturation plugin. It's really different, and uh, at default settings when all the knobs are down, it won't do anything to your sound. But once you increase the level and the frequency, you can see there is this low sub frequency sound coming out, and it's not even audible to us. So yeah, so even if we are not increasing the distortion or drive of the sound, the plugin is already affecting the sound. So let's just take a listen. So what the frequency knob does is it is a low pass or a high cut filter. So as you decrease it, it will keep cutting the frequency. And resonance knob controls the sharpness of the low pass filter. So higher the resonance, more sharp the filter and more prominent it would be while you move it. So one thing that I would say is we should really be careful while using the resonance knob, and putting it on a really high value could like do this, which is not desirable at all. Like even if we are not playing the sound, we can hear some resonance which is being generated by the distortion circuit algorithm of the plugin. So yeah, up next we have the distortion knob. So this is simply the drive knob, and it increases the amount of distortion on the signal coming inside the plugin. Next thing we have is the feedback knob, and this determines the amount of signal which is fed again inside the plugin for even further more distortion. So what you can do is you can just keep the distortion at really low values like 2% and increase the feedback, and let's see what happens. So it is not increasing the distortion by any amount, but it is just increasing the gain of the signal which is being fed inside the plugin. So you shouldn't like put it at a really high value and be careful while using the feedback knob. Instead, you should adjust the amount of distortion that you want. So, and at the end, we have the level knob, which is basically the out gain knob. So, after the plugin has done its thing, you can just control the level of the sound coming out of the plugin. You also have some presets like this. So I think the light fried preset is like the best preset in this plugin. Like it's at its best settings, like it is affecting the entire spectrum. There is only 6% of distortion, which is a good spot for almost anything. And also there is a bit of gain reduction to balance out the sound. So fuzz plus can be used on pretty much everything, and it adds uh, a bit high end sparkle to your sound. So to make your sounds brighter, I would definitely recommend using Fuzz Plus 3. Now this one is really special. So this distortion unit is called ScarUnlimited, and as you can see it says Visual Tube Distortion Designer. So what this plugin allows you to do is it can help you distort any 4 points within the spectrum of the audio you are feeding inside the plugin, and it has the bias tube settings for each point in it. So you can adjust the bias for every point individually, and you can also control the amount of distortion by moving these points. So basically you can say that this is a multi-band distortion unit, and the length of the yellow line determines the area, the frequency range which will be affected by the distortion of this plugin. And yeah, that's pretty much it for its settings. And now let's just listen how it sounds. So yeah, since the layout is really small, adjusting these points to a specific point as you wish is a bit difficult, but it works out if you can just figure out where to put them. And there is also an output knob in this and a bypass button. So I would recommend using this in parallel whenever you use it, because as you can see it is like really heavy on the sound. It just starts crushing the sound the moment you put these points a bit up. So yeah, I would recommend using this in parallel to add that little spark inside the audio, and you may use it on multi-tracks and your mastering chain. The next plugin we have is called PreFET by Accentize, and this plugin uses a neural network and machine learning to emulate the tone of a 70s cassette tabletop unit, and it is a really simple plugin, and it does its job pretty well. So you can use it on your entire track or on individual instruments, and it basically has only two settings: a drive knob and a gain knob. So let us see how it works. So it's pretty good to emulate the nice warm tape distortion from the 70s, and as I said, you can use it in your mastering chain or on multiple tracks or on individual instruments, and it's a really nice plugin even after being free. So you can use it in your master bus. I would recommend using this plugin on your master bus while adding some saturation to your track and to add that tape warmth to your track. And you can also use it individually on different instruments. And it's a really good plugin being free. So this one is one of my personal favorites, and it's called HeadCrusher Free by Audio Assault. And there's actually a paid version with some extra settings in it. So I'll talk about that later. So what this is based on is some vintage kind of analog tube saturation. That's the kind of tone you get out of this. The controls you get with this are like a drive knob, an output gain control, the tone knob which will make your sound brighter or more focused on the low end if you put it on the left. Then you have a low cut and a high cut filter. So this is also a filter plus saturation plus distortion combo. So yeah, let's just see how it works with our sample. So as you can see, for our drums, too much of saturation doesn't seem like a good idea because it can just start crushing the sound at such low levels also. So putting it around here would be fine for your kick drums. But beyond that, it would just destroy your sound. And for instruments, like for example, we have a guitar loop. Up till here, you can just add in like some really good harmonic tone to the sound. And after this, beyond this point, it will start the same thing as it happened with the drums. It will start crushing the sound. So yeah, let's just see. So yeah, and the filters sound like this. So the filters have like a pretty steep curve, but the curve is not like with some, the curve doesn't have really high resonance in it. So yeah, it sounds more natural, not that digital. So as I said, this is one of my personal favorites, and you can use it on pretty much everything, like on your drums, on your instruments, on group of instruments, or in your master chain. So yeah, I would definitely recommend this plugin. So at last we have SN06 G OpAmp, and I saved the best one for the end. And this plugin can basically do everything for you. Like, it's a complete package. It's really simple, yet it can give you a lot of control over the distortion that you are putting in your sound. And I'll go through the settings one by one. So here we have two pads. So you can add 10 dBs or subtract 10 dBs from the input signal even before you start processing the sound. So if your sound is like too loud or it is too quiet, you can just add or remove 10 dBs from it just before the processing. So you don't have to adjust anything inside your mixer or anything. So that helps a lot. Then it has a drive knob to increase the saturation, amount of saturation. And at the end, it has an output volume knob, and it shows you the path of where the sound goes from. So it comes in from here, goes to the saturation, and then there is the output gain knob. So yeah, and also you can just, if you click on the values of drive and volume, you can type in your desirable value. So yeah, even that I think is a really good thing about this plugin. So now let's just listen to it. So you can see that this plugin can be really aggressive, and it can also be really soft at the same time. It depends on how you use it. So here, even if I cranked up the drive to like its maximum value, which is plus 24, and I activated the minus 10 dB knob and adjust the gain a bit, and the sound was still getting saturated, but it wasn't getting crushed, it wasn't that harsh. So we were getting some soft and pleasant saturation through this plugin. And if I take out the 10 dB pad, then you can get that crushing sort of tone. So yeah, it can do both. It can just give you soft saturation, or you can just crush the sound. And by the way, I forgot to tell this. Here you have a small red LED which indicates clipping. So whenever this lights up, it means your sound is clipping. So you can just reduce the gain. So yeah, I would suggest you can use this plugin on pretty much everything, like multiple tracks, buses, in your master chain, or on individual instruments. And I think this is so far the best distortion slash saturation plugin which is for free that I have seen until now. So that's it for the video, guys. Please like the video if you liked it, and consider subscribing to our channel. So we'll get back to you with more such videos in future, and I'll see you in the next.